My dad did well for himself financially, and I was 11 before I plucked up the courage to ask the big question, Dad, are we middle class yet? No, we are not. He was furious I had the audacity to ask. He was a working class man, and his children were going to be educated, but not so we were going to be middle class. He didn't want us to be middle class. He wanted us to be rich. There's a difference. I've been somewhat of a disappointment on both counts, frankly. I think this is really the difference between the middle class and the working class. This is where it emerges. Generally speaking, the difference is overblown, but it emerges on parenting. Generally speaking, middle class parents want their children to have the advantages they've had, for their children to be like them. Generally speaking, working class parents want better for their children. They want their children to be improved. They want their children to be able to look down upon them. And to that extent, my dad has been successful. Now, I know at this point, there will be one or two of you sitting here. Sitting here going, you bang on about class like it's 1985. Seriously, Mark, it's all changed. Seriously, it's all changed. We're all middle class now. Fantastic. Tell your cleaner she'll be fucking thrilled. If there is any doubt over what class you're in, there's a very simple test to do, and it's this. If somebody says, will you pass the olive oil? And you say, which one? You're middle class. If you use the word distressed to describe a relative rather than an item of furniture, you're working class. Your coffee table's distressed. You should see my grandma by the self-service checkout. That's fucking distressed. As for myself, I am resolutely middle class, and I put myself in the bohemian bracket. Essentially, if John Lewis is ever to open up a tattoo parlour, I would be first in line. Cross lemon zesters and a honeycomb. What my dad disliked about the middle class was he thought they were smart. And in honesty, I think it was a defensive reaction. He thought he was going to be judged, so he got his judgment in quickly and said, you lot are pretentious. But what he hated about the middle class was their aversion to physical labour. Sure, he would fix your house. He would do it brilliantly too.
Yeah, it's amazing with a hammer and a fucking chisel.
I promise each and every one of you, he was a master craftsman.
He was beautiful.
He'd roll his sleeves up, he'd get himself dirty, and he could make you something of rare joy. And you could show it off to your friends and neighbours, and you could look down your nose at my dad. You could sneer at him while he talked about Maggie and dropped his H's and left them blind, but he would earn more money than the lot of them. In many ways, it comes as no surprise he discovered a love of opera. The most expensive art form, the most exclusive art form, the most elite art form, an art form someone from my dad's background should not have access to. Because culturally speaking, opera is the default setting of the ruling class. That's where they go to instead of Nando's and Quiznos. Now, my dad, he discovered a love of opera through two things. One, church music. Church. Choral music in particular has got a natural inclination to a classical bent. But the big thing that got him into opera was education, his belief in education. It wasn't just for his kids, it was for him. He was going to be educated. He was going to be improved, self-improved. And to that end, every week, he would buy this. This is The Great Musicians, a week-by-week study of the world's greatest composers and their music. Costs £13 and 8 shillings for a 6 monthly subscription. It gets delivered to the newsagent. Each week it comes through, it goes through the great composers alphabetically. Bach, Beethoven, Wagner at the end. This is Bach, number 1, there's 10 Bachs. At the front, it's kind of like it's like a theatre programme without any adverts. So it contextualises the composer's work, looks at Bach's early life, so it's looking at the significance, Bach's musical background, Brandenburg concertos. At the back is a folder, and in the folder is this. For the younger members of the audience. This is vinyl. And there was a time when we were very fond of vinyl. There was a time when every great piece of music started with this sound. The needle would go on the record and through the grooves, producing notes to make us twitch, tap, sway and move. That is quite erotic, I'm sorry. Every week, my dad would go up to the newsagents and he'd get his culture. He would come back into the living room, put the record on the turntable, read the entirety of the programme notes. No mean feat for a man with dyslexia. Then he would play the record twice, forcing himself to be educated, forcing himself to be improved, with his trousers around his ankles. Do you remember this, Mum? Do you remember the classic series?
The classic series, yeah. Basically, that's all we can do at the time, isn't it?
Classical music was not all opera. It was opera in a box, yeah.
Was this the first time you'd heard that music?
Yes, a lot of times.
Probably it was.
And what stood out for you?
Rossini.
Rossini.
Verdi.
And Verdi. Rossini and Verdi. This is a man whose entire self-image is entwined in masculinity, who defines machismo, who has no fear of physical violence, who embraces hard physical work, for whom the term brute force is an accolade. And he falls in love with an art form inhabited by sprats and pixies and elves, of men in antlers, of magic flutes, of gypsies singing of lost love, of captured women and evil dukes. It's as if he staggered across the shattered wasteland of his emotion, and in the stunted debris discovered a box marked It's as if he found his inner camp. Opera left me cold. I thought it was panto for posh people, and there was the end of it. You might as well stick Christopher Biggins in a Pavarotti mask and shove him on as far as I was concerned. And the worst thing with opera, I'm sure you'll agree, is if you go and see it, you have to sit next to people who fucking like it. My dad loved it. He would play it on Sundays while he did the paperwork in the house, would fill up with sopranos and tenors and Rossini's big basses. It became the backdrop to our afternoons. It became the backdrop to the neighbours' afternoons too. Then, he started to go and see it live. Do you remember the first opera you went to see?
Yeah. La
Bohème. He went to see it at Covent Garden. He bought tickets on the day in the slips, which means you have to stand. We said, good job you have to stand, because if you got a seat, you'd have sat down and heard the music and had to drop your trousers to feel comfortable. He started to take my mum to all the opera houses. They'd go to the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, classy. English National Opera, better, because they sing it in English. The Lion Ball, pricey but worth it. My mum remembers the first time they went to Glasgow, and she said, I've sent your father up to the bar to get me a glass of that iced coffee. All I can hear is his voice going, how much? But he knew his opera. He could tell you if he'd seen a good production or a bad one, unlike 80% of the audience there who were happy just to pat himself on the back for turning up. But more than that, what my mum said was he loved the event. Special aftershave, proper bow tie, standing there with a cigar in his fist, a look on his face that to the uninitiated said, I'm as good as you are, pal. It didn't. It said, I'm better than you are because I had to fucking work for this. That's what it said. He had two sets of every opera. One set would be a vinyl set, a box set for home. The other set, exactly the same opera, exactly the same recording in cassette form for work. I'll say that again. Opera for the building site. My dad would take his cassette recorder to work with him. In the summer, we'd sling up the scaffold, you tie it in, you strip the slates, you felt them back. All the while, he's got a cassette blasting out Rossini's Barbary Seville across the rooftops of South London, and he would fucking sing along. He'd be singing along to Figaro's Armies. Now, my dad, he sung with the gusto of a Welsh male voice choir and the precision of the carpet bombing of Cambodia. He didn't even know the words. It was in another language. He just improvised it. Reverend Ficklo, Hicklo, Hair, Pisoidi, Doidy, Jam. I'm a 15-year-old punk rocker, Mohican, with an Anarchy and Freedom t-shirt. I'm working my dad singing fucking opera. To withstand that level of embarrassment, you would need to be George Galloway. But only once did I ever hear anyone on the site try and take the piss out of him. His mate Mac. Mac, old mate, he was a butcher from the Roland Road, turned painter and decorator. Mac has come down for his tea early. He's obviously heard the music. Because when we come down for the tea, Mac's there going, "Get hell, Colin, what the fuck you got going on up there? You stuck a bird or a pole or something?" To which my dad replied, "I'll stick you on a fucking pole in a minute, you cultured prick." And thus the debate ended. Now, at this stage, some of you might quite like my dad. Some of you might be sitting there going, "Oh, a bit of a rough diamond, a bit of a wild card," but in his heart a man that loves opera and art. In reality, my dad was a cunt. He was rarely at home, so we didn't see much of him. When he was at home, we all had to step on eggshells lest we upset him when he went into a mood. The fists that were quick to fly outside the house were just as quick to fly inside. Once, one of the kids, all under 12, one of us wrote one word on the banister in biro, and that word was bum. Someone wrote bum on the banister, which incidentally is the title of any forthcoming autobiography. Bum on the banister by Mark Thomas and Noel Gower. My dad lines us all up and takes turns to beat us until we take turns to cry, and he says, "The one that's done it has been punished."
But I know for a fact that once he lost it, he didn't want to be anywhere near him. You did. He did have a temper on him. I'll be honest, I don't like talking about it because he's my dad. I love him.